Hello everyone, and welcome to another scrapbook layout process video where I'm going to talk about how I select photos when I've got a whole heap to choose from. I have got 16 photos in front of me here, and from this, when I spent some time with Julie Carrier in the Galaxy's Edge area, all the Star Wars things in Disneyland in LA, and I was in heaven. I have to admit, this is my probably favorite area of the park. When Star Wars first came out, the first movie came out, I remember going to the cinema with my girlfriends and watching that. We were teenagers. I'm probably dating myself here a little bit. And we just fell in love with this movie and the whole concept of it. And seeing what Disneyland have done with this area, I think it's absolutely fantastic. I was blown away by the attention to detail, all the things that they had on offer for you to look at, enjoy, take photos of. And Julie and I took a lot of photos. And she's probably not going to like me terribly much, but I've even got the cheesy ones here that I'm going to put in flip-flaps, but I had to include them in because I love how when the photographers at Disneyland take photos and they can put something like a BB-8 in here. I was really hoping they'd put R2-D2 in there, but he's one of my all-time favorites, of course. But we got BB-8 in our photos and another droid as well, so I am including those cheesy photos. But what I wanted to talk about today was how I've picked these photos and how I choose ones that are going to be in a larger print format, a regular size format, and take a smaller supporting role with these 3x3s that I've got here. If you haven't seen this already, Julie and I are doing a collaboration on our Disneyland photos, and we did talk about how to do the selection and share them with friends and everything with our week one of this collaboration. So I will put a link to the playlist below for that, so you can check out those two videos and see how we worked all of this out. So every night we sat down and we shared our photos with each other. So that meant, apart from the fact that I had a whole heap of my photos, I had Julie's photos as well, which is a really good thing because here I am in a photo that I might not normally have. And then I've shared photos that I've taken of her in this same area as well. So it's great to be able to share photos, but then you get into a place where you get a little bit overwhelmed by the amount of photos that you have. So I have tried to pick photos that are a little bit different from each other. I really wanted to do two large 6x8s for this. The sky was absolutely beautiful, and I know this sort of looks like the same photo, but they're from different angles. And I love all the detail with the Millennium Falcon here, and it really is absolutely wonderful to be able to see that. So I wanted two large 6x8s. So that was what I started with first. I picked my first lot of photos. There are no people in these actual photos, so I knew that one of my photos had to have a further away shot to show the scale of this area. So this one I have printed as a 6x4, and this is taken further back. So this is something that you want to sort of look at when you're traveling, not just in Disneyland, but anywhere. If you zoom in on everything, you don't really get the perspective of the actual place that you're visiting. I feel like this shot here just shows how large this area is, and with the perspective of the people walking around here as well. I know that you get a little bit of perspective with these two smaller photos, but I really wanted a 6x4 that captured this whole area. It's not the only area in Galaxy's Edge, but this is sort of like, I suppose, the hero area before you walk through the marketplace and down towards other rides and things. Now, Julie and I did sit down and we wrote out a schedule of what we were going to be scrapbooking. And this week she's already posted her video. She goes the day before me. So she has done her photos from Galaxy's Edge. While I'm saying this, I can't wait to see what she has actually created. It's going to be so fun to see her skew on how to scrapbook this and how she's chosen her photos. For me, I'm going a little bit rogue. I have selected photos from us walking around the outdoor areas. I did take photos while we were on the rides, and Julie did as well. And I was going to try and include them all on this one layout, but I felt like it was going to get too busy. So I'm going to do an extra double page spread from what we have scheduled out. We've got a spreadsheet where we've listed what photos we're going to work with and when we're going to bring the videos to you. So these will be airing every 2 weeks until we have completed our album. The rides, which have a totally different feel to these because they are indoors and they have special effects and things like that in them, that deserved a double page spread because Star Wars for me was a real highlight for Disneyland. So that's what you've got to think of when you're looking at your photos. maybe what the area was, especially with Disneyland, what the area was that you loved the most. And if you have enough photos from different angles and different perspectives to create more than one double page spread, and then separate them out into what areas work well together. So you see I've got all of the outside area here, and then I've got some supporting photos. This is inside the marketplace walkthrough, and it is a little bit of a different tone, but I loved all the detail, and we are going to be scrapbooking this area for our night photos as well, because it took on a totally different look to it at night. So you can see I've got a couple of 6x4s here. I'm going to use my Versamat to start laying things out. So I'm thinking on the right side, and I'm going to be using flip flaps. So I'm going to stack up on top what photos are going to be going in the flip flaps and what photo will be going on the top. So I'm thinking I'm going to have like a little grid fashion here. I could not print all of these in one sheet because it's going to span the width of the 12 inches. And I'm thinking I might put Julie on the top of that just to break up some of the same looks to this. And then I've got another 6x4 here. And then it came to other supporting photos of us walking around in the area, but I didn't want to do whole 6x4s with these. So I've printed these as 2 3x4s side by side, printed them as one so that they will fit on a flip flap underneath this photo. I didn't want all my photos that were going to be on the top layer, as it were, to be all of this area. I wanted to have some people in it. So now I've got my little 3x3s, and these are like the little supporting photos that I've got that I think I might run across the bottom here. So I'm just going to put these out and spread these around. And I'm going to put these cheesy photos in a flip flap underneath here. So flip flaps come in 3x3s, 3x4, 6x4, and 4x4, I think, Stampin' Up! Have got. And they're coming in really handy when you're dealing with a lot of photos on a page. So you can see by what I've got in front of me here, it is now not too crowded. If I try and fit all of these photos around everywhere, which I could possibly do, and I could lay all of these out like this, it starts to get busy and the eye doesn't quite know where to focus on. So that's why I am leaving white space around my photos. So the photos are going to be center stage. I'm going to do a pretty simple layout for this. And I will be overlapping some of these because I've printed these so that I can cut them down with a white border. I printed all my photos onto A4 so that I could create space in between everything and get the same margin around rather than having to cut up a whole heap of white cardstock. So I'm going to put these back like this. And I'm really liking this arrangement. And if you don't have these old Versamats from Close to My Heart, you can just put out white cardstock or a coloured cardstock and lay your photos out on that and play with them until you've got an arrangement that you like. So the next part of the process for me is working out what I'm going to do as my base layers. So I'm going to audition some colours here. I've got black, white willow, smoky slate and basic grey. And the good thing about this is that these are all two-tone cardstocks. So I can actually turn them over if I want the lighter side. So I'm going to put white behind these ones here. I'm actually going to take away my little supporting photos because it's going to get a little bit hard to slide things underneath if I leave them on there. Now, white is usually my go-to, but I've decided that maybe I need to put a little bit of colour behind these. So let me just move these off to the top here. So my next thought was to have a look at black cardstock just to see if it would make my photos pop. Now, I really love how this looks. I think it's quite dramatic, and that's what Galaxy's Edge is to me in Star Wars. It's very dramatic, and I could just build straight onto the black. Or I could turn the black over and have this sort of dark grey shade. So I love that the black has two different tones to it. I'm just going to bend it back here so you can see. This is the true black and this is the two-tone colour on the other side. The two-tone colour on the other side is always a lighter shade. And I think I like the softer sort of grey tone to this rather than the black. Now I'm going to bring in basic grey. This is the true colour, but it might be just what I'm looking for. I don't know if it's making these look a bit too heavy. So I'm going to flip this one over. So this one is basic grey. I think I like the lighter colour as opposed to the darker one. So let me take away the black that I've got here. And I'm going to bring in a lighter grey again. So this is smoky slate. So you can see I just bent that over there. So that's the true colour. And this is the lighter tone. And I love that one sheet of paper gives us two options. I'm thinking that the lighter tone actually brings this to life a little bit more. I'm going to slide it underneath this one. And I think this is going to work a little bit better rather than that dark side. So I'm going to get out another piece of smoky slate. And there's the true colour on this side. I'm going to flip this over so I can see what it looks like with the lighter tone. I think I'm liking that. So let me flip this one over, resituate these photos. I really do like how that looks. So now I'm just going to quickly fan out these photos here. And I think this is the grey I'm going to use, because I want to bring in some black accents and some darker grey accents for my supporting pieces of paper. Also with my title, I'm going to be using probably a black. And the white mats that I've got with the actual printed photos here are working quite well with this. So I think this is the design I'm going to go with. So I'm putting this so that I know this needs to go into a 6x4 flip flap. So that is going to flip up. I'm going to butt these all up next to each other. It's a little bit hard to sort of get a flip flap in between this area here. So that's something that you have to think about. And the 6x4 flip flaps come with options so that you can flip them out sideways if you want to, or flip them from top or bottom, whichever way you adhere them. So I'm going to put these ones into my flip flap now so I don't get confused. And I want to make sure that the adhesive strip that I peel away is at the top or up this facing this way. I need to trim the edge slightly of one of my photos. So this one is going to have the flat adhered underneath this photo, and I can see a little bit of a problem here that needs to be addressed. So if I adhere this photo directly to the page up against my edge of my paper, and then I put my flip flap in so that it will cover that photo perfectly. When I put that down, that is hanging off to the edge here, so it's not going to fit. So I'm having to rethink what I'm doing here. I'm going to see if I like this coming over the top of this photo somewhat when I adhere it down. Now this one is my bottom photo. I'm going to put that up against here. Bring this in a little bit. I don't think it cuts off too much of this photo. The other option is for me to have my flip flap coming out this way, but I really don't want to have this sort of housing for the flip flap coming out over the top of this photo here. So if I put this one in the flip flap, I'm just going to line it up so you can see what I mean. You won't see this white piece here because that gets removed to adhere it, but the actual housing for the flip flap is going to go over the top of my photo here. So I really want to make this work by having my flip flaps come down from the bottom here and then up to the top on this one. So that's something that you have to think about when you're laying your page out. Rather than going ahead and adhering this down directly with the edge here, it's not going to work with a flip flap because the edge of this is going to go over the edge of the paper, and then it won't fit in the memory protector as well. So I walked away from this layout for a while and thought about it, and you can see I have swapped out my base pages from the grey and I've gone back to white. I just felt like this was a lot cleaner, and I have done some matting on my photos. So you can see here I've kept the white borders that were printed with my photos when I trimmed them down, and I've added a black mat, and I think it just works so well. I had a bit of an issue with this side, as you recall, trying to fit in my flip flaps so that the edge of them didn't go outside the seam of the memory protector. Because I'm flipping them this way, I don't want to flip them this way. And so what I did to solve that problem was I actually trimmed this photo down a little bit. So originally it was a 6x8 photo, so I've trimmed it down, and I've still got all this awesomeness of this area with the Millennium Falcon and the rocks in the background, and I just love how that looks. So from the photo itself, I've cut probably 3/8 of an inch off, and Then I have matted it onto white cardstock, and then I brought in the black cardstock, and I just think this works really well. Now, somewhere in my printing, things went a little bit askew. I'm not quite sure why my program is not picking up that this is a true 6x4 photo, and this one is a true 6x4 photo. And I think it's something to do with the borders. But I'm going to hide this little faux pas here, put my photo, my large photo, over top of this one, so it just brings in the black all the way around. And then I am going to be able to put my flip flap over top of this area here. So when I go to adhere this down, I am just going to adhere this area here. I'm not going to go right to the top of this, so that I am able to tuck this under with my flip flap. And because I did the black border around this one, I have done it around the rest of these. I'm not going to put it on the flip flap as such, because when I put this over, I'm just going to line this up on camera with you. I just recently did a video using flip flaps, so I will link to how I use flip flaps. I've got a flip flap 101 video. I will link to that in the description below, but you can see the black is still showing through, and I haven't got the black separating these photos here at all. So then it came to picking pattern paper, and I'm going to be really interested to see what Julie does with this, because I'm not going to use any pattern paper at all on my layout. I am going to bring in some embellishments, and I think they're going to surprise you with what I've picked. But what I decided to do was cut some strips and bring in some silver. So I think this foil paper here works really well, and you might be surprised by what it's called. It's actually the flower garden foils. So I'm hoping this pattern is picking up on camera. I love the geometric shape of this, and I think it fits really, really well with the whole Star Wars theme here. You can see from the other sheets I've got in here, I have used some of the florals, but this pattern way comes in it as well. So you get one sheet of the floral and then one sheet of the grid style layout for each color. And this is fast becoming one of my favorite foil papers, because I think it's so flexible and you don't need to use a whole lot of it. A little bit goes a long way, and I think it's going to tie in really well with my Star Wars theme. Now, I do have other photos. As I said before, I have gone a little bit rogue, but I've got quite a lot of photos on this page. So I'm not putting the photos of the rides that we did on this one, because I really want this to be a standout of the area. And with my two large 6x8 photos here and my flip flaps, I think it captures quite a lot of the feeling of this area. I really, really love it. And I just want to go back and watch the original Star Wars trilogy all over again. So I'm just laying these strips out, and I am going to do something a little bit different for the left page, because I've got these photos down here and I've got a title to put in here as well. So my title is done with print then cut on the Cricut, and I'll link to a video where I've explained how I use print then cut. And I'm not very original with my title. I was going to put my favorite galaxy, but I thought that might be a bit too corny. So let me know if you think I should change it to that one. So what I'm going to do for this, because I've got the 3 strips here and the 3 strips here, it does not quite fit going across here. Now I'm just going to show you why I'm not doing the 3 strips. I am going to do some strips across the bottom, and I'm going to change that as well. And when I just put my title over the top of this, I feel like this gets just a little bit busy here. So what I'm going to do is take these 2 away and pop my title at the top here and leave that nice and clean. And then for the bit at the bottom, I'm going to match up the foil, and you can see, I'm hoping you can see on camera, I have cut this with a little bit of purpose to try and match it up somewhat. I'm not totally successful, but once it's in the page protector, I think it will work quite well. And then I'm going to put this other black strip here and bump this one up just a little bit. Now my flip flap is going to have to go on after I have put this piece down, and then this will all fit like this. So I like the cleanness of this. So what I'm going to do is center my photos on this right page, put on these strips, and then when I do the adhering, I will bump this page up against the right page so that I can line up my strips, and then I'll adhere my photos and my title down. Now this area here doesn't have much on it, but that's because I'm going to put some journaling on here, and I just need to type that up on my computer, because I'm doing all my journaling with typing, because I have so much to say and I can fit more words in when I actually type them out. So I'm going to have my tags like this. I might do some staggered journaling. So I've just created these tags. These are 3 inches wide by 4 inches, and then I've just snipped off the edge and brought that edge over to this side so I could get them to be matching angles. And then I've die cut some little tag finishes with that same Flower Garden foils. So don't let the name trick you into thinking it's just all about florals. This little grid paper is fabulous. So the finishing pieces here are from the Grow with Love dies, and it makes a little envelope, and it does coordinate with a stamp set that has some herbs on it. But I love these little finishes here. So that's what I've used for this. And I'm really loving how this is looking. There's going to be a lot of photos here with the flip flaps. But when you look at this one, it's still quite photo heavy. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 photos on a double page spread. 2 of them are 6 by 8 or a little bit shorter now that I've trimmed that one down. And I still think it's a nice layout with a lot of flow to it, and it doesn't look too cluttered. And the flip flaps are really going to help increase the real estate of how many photos I've got on here. But I do have some surprise embellishments to bring in. I think you're going to be surprised at what category I actually looked at in my stamp sets to find the things that I thought worked perfectly with this layout. So I'm going to adhere all of this down, and then I'll be back to bring those in. So I realized I was getting a bit excited adhering everything down. I want to do some background stamping before I go too much further. So I have lifted this up a little bit. I did put my flip flaps on here. I needed to get my head right over this so that I could get it lined up, because part of the adhesive goes underneath this photo on the right here. So you wouldn't want to have looked at the back of my head while I was trying to do that. As I said, I will link to the video that I have recently put up and my Flip Flaps 101 video for you to have a look at. So now I'm going to show you where I went digging to find what I thought could be the perfect stamp or die cut elements for my pages. I'm not going to overly embellish this, but I did want to add something to it, especially now that I've changed to white. I went looking in my nature section of my stamp sets. So I'm going to bring in Perfectly Pairs and Spotlight on Nature. Now, Spotlight on Nature, you can probably see this one here. This is the stamp set that I'm going to use to do some background stamping and also to help ground the embellishments that I'm going to bring in. So have a look through your stamp set sometimes and look in unexpected places to find the perfect embellishments. I think this is going to work really well. I have done a little bit of a test here just on a scrap piece of copy paper. And I think you can see when I put that behind my title here, it really does work so well. Now I have to apologize for this light coming across here. The winter sun is shining nice and brightly, and there's one section that I just can't block off. And I want to get this video done because I have to post it in time, because Julie's video will have gone up this morning and I had to sleep on this, and so I'm doing this the day before mine is due. But I think you can see from this, I've stamped this in basic grey, and I think it's going to be perfect for these photos. I was looking for gears and things like that, but the ones I have I think would be too busy to put onto this page and might detract a little bit from my photos. I want my photos to be the main hero of this. Now you're probably wondering why Perfectly Pairs. Now this is a brand new stamp set and it's part of a suite collection, and I do have the whole suite, but I wasn't going to buy the stamp set, and I've seen a lot of people do beautiful things with this pair. But then I looked at the dies and I saw this one here, and I knew that I wanted to use it on my Star Wars section for my Disneyland album. So what I have done is die cut quite a few of these out of this same Flower Gardens foil. Now you can see there's still a little bit of texture there. Some of it doesn't come through as clearly, but once I start putting these around, I think it's going to work really, really well. So I die cut these out of the silver foil paper and also out of some of the black paper. So I am going to be tucking these around, and I'm not going to try and do a shadow element or anything like that. It's not going to be perfectly placed, because when you look at all the gears and the way everything is set up here, all the icons and things that are involved with Star Wars, I think this teams in really well, and I don't need to go and find Star Wars SVGs or anything like that to put on my page. I want my photos to be the main focal point for this. So I am going to just roughly place these where I want them. You can see I'm doing groups of 2, which normally I wouldn't do. So let me see. I might just put a third one here. I think that's going to work quite well. I do have quite a few in my little bowl here, and I think what I'm going to do is save some of them to use on my next double page spread, the one where I'm going a little bit rogue from our album planning that Julie and I did when we started thinking about doing this collaboration. I wanted the rides to be separate, so I can use these same embellishments on that. Hope I'm not going to get my head in the way. I'm going to peel up what I've already put down here. And you can see that's creating the perfect little spot for these elements to go. I think it is going to work so well. Just going to scooch that over to the edge. And this one I thought I was going to do 3, so I'm just going to add another one in. I want to put some underneath where my title is going to go. So some will peek out from behind the strips. I'm really excited about this. I think they're going to work really, really well. And I should have done this before I put all my other strips down. These ones I can now push back down. And I do want some of it to come out from behind the photo here. And the same with this section here. Everything is moving now. So this is a little bit of a process, but I think it's going to be really worth it in the end. So now I'm going to adhere my photos down, and I'm just putting this back here, and I can see I haven't gone up far enough. So let me just increase this just a little bit more and put another section over this side, just so that I've got quite a bit of it there. It looks a little bit like a mess now, but when my photos go over the top here and then I start tucking these pieces in, I think it will work really well. I love how this is looking. I am so happy with the end result of this. I never thought that I would be looking through my nature and floral selection of stamps and dies for elements that would go with a Star Wars themed layout. But I think they look so good on this layout. Just a few of them, not too much, because the photos themselves needed to take pride of place. Putting flip-flaps on the layout has extended this so much. I can fit so many more photos on this, and really with all the photos that we had to select from the 2 of us taking their photos, there was a lot to choose from. I think I said this earlier on in the video, I love that I've included this one here, which is taken further back so that it shows the vastness of this area and the scale of it. The attention to detail with this is just amazing. And I love that BB-8's in this cute little corny photo with the 2 of us. Now, when it comes to the flip-flaps, I did show this just the other day on how I attach them, but I just wanted to show you, just as a refresher, this is what I do when I attach them. I tuck them underneath the element so that the adhesive is underneath here, and I make a little tail for the carrier strip here. And this makes it really easy to just grab hold of that and tear that off. And then I come in with my bone folder and just score along here. And I also go along this area here where those little dots were from the adhesive, and now you can't see them anymore. Not only did I use floral themed stamped and die sets for this, but I've used a silver foil from a floral theme packet. So don't be put off by the name of things. Have a really close look at the artwork when it comes to paper packets, the reverse sides of florals. I know I've said this before on my channel. Just look at the other side if you're not a big floral person and see if there are elements there that you can use. Quite often the reverse sides of pattern paper will suit a more masculine page. And I realise I have tucked my journaling a little bit too far. So I am just going to peel this off and put this on properly. It's funny that what you don't notice when you get all excited about finishing off a layout and you adhere things down and then realise later on that it hasn't quite worked. So what I did for my journaling, I've just digressed from my talk about paper packets, But what I've done for my journaling is I've printed them out on my computer onto cardstock. I did a test run on just a normal piece of copy paper before printing them onto white Willow, and I've made them the same size as these tags here so I could just put it on top, and that fits beautifully on here. I like having these little sections coming over the photo in certain areas here. It just brings everything together. And as I was saying, look at your pattern papers. I didn't know what pattern paper I was going to use for this, and I have to confess, I just went off and had a little sneaky look at what Julie has done with hers. We haven't shared our finished layouts with each other, so we don't really know what the other person is doing or what they're using. You need to go and check out her video. She's used pattern paper, and as soon as I saw her put that on screen, I knew that it would be a perfect fit for these photos, but I didn't think of that. My brain went totally somewhere else, and I went to silver foil. So make sure you check out her video. It went up yesterday. And also, I just want to encourage you, have a look in your stamp sets and dies, because you might find something that is going to be absolutely perfect for a layout that doesn't go with the theme or what its intended use was with the actual product, but works perfectly with something like I have here. Make sure you tune back in 2 weeks' time. Julie and I will be doing the next step in our collab for the next lot of photos that we have chosen. I am going to sneak in another video at some stage. I don't know if it's going to be within the next 2 weeks, but it will be of the rides that we did in this area of Disneyland. Thank you all for tuning in. As always, happy crafting. I hope to see you next time. Bye for now.